through Quail Forever, through the chapter or something like that if they come help us burn. So the short answer is no. We do have liability insurance for prescribed burning through our organization for chapters. There is some hoops they have to jump through. They have to have 2 red carded individuals on every burn. They have to have their fire plan turned in a week before the burn and make sure that's all signed off on and good to go. But then that coverage is really just to cover the chapter members and the chapter that are going out and doing the burn, and then the organization itself, so PFQF as a whole. That coverage that the chapter can get when they do burns doesn't actually cover anything for the landowner. It's just to cover the organization. We get that question a lot, and there's a bit of confusion there amongst folks. In general, the way we run that and the way the PBAs that I've helped set up run that issue is liability for prescribed burn on a landowner's property is going to need to be covered through the landowner's farm policy. In the states I've worked in and doing fire stuff, that's never been an issue. Most everybody's farm policy has prescribed burn it listed in it, and so they're covered. So when we set up and help do the PBAs, some of the rules that we've had is they have to show that proof of farm policy fire insurance before we'll do a burn on their property. And then beyond that, it's all the safety rules, the training, the experience, the plan that they have on file, following that plan the day of the burn to just help limit that liability. And a lot of that has to do with the way our fire liability laws are set up in our different states. And I'm really just going to be able to talk from experience in those 2 states. Some of the others I know are a bit different. But for the most part, it's not something that we really focus too heavy on, because the states that I've worked in and most of the states here in the central part of the country either have a simple negligence law on the books, or the tort law is basically dictating it towards simple negligence as well. So as long as we're doing things right and helping limit that risk and showing that we're doing things competently, we're going to be in good shape. And as we heard the first day from John, these things have a 99.99% success rate with no issues whatsoever. So we really view it, and I have almost that same discussion with a lot of landowners and PBA members that John gave. It's really kind of an overstated worry. That's not always, the case. So
I know we have never had a liability claim really due to prescribed burning. And I tell people, if you read your policy, I hope everybody has a farm policy that does prescribed burning. Don't count on your homeowner's liability for a lot of things, because it's usually right there around your house, and if you do any kind of prescribed burns, I've been through the school. It makes you a lot safer and better prepared. And I revisited my liability policy last night. It makes for very boring reading, because all those policies are just legal contracts wrote by lawyers. It may give you coverage in one place and take away another. But pretty well rule of thumb on liability, if it's not excluded, you got coverage. And it's not written on our policy anywhere, and they won't put it in there. I've asked them for prescribed burning because it is a farming practice. We support it on the farm side. Big page of stuff. The Fire Boss program, we support funding and help get funding for all the burn programs, because I believe if more people embrace it, our insurance rates will go down. It's proven. Because I told people yesterday, in the 60s when I grew up, we had 2 fire trucks in my county, and we never had wildfires, because all our dads and uncles, they burn yearly. They said kill the bugs, kill the weeds, whatever. But anyway, it reduced the fire load, and everybody plowed then, which they don't now. And we didn't have a lot of seeders. But now we have 200 fire trucks and a lot of fires. And we've lost some structures, but they weren't due to prescribed burning. I burn every 3 years, and it's makes a huge difference in my property. You know, I've talked to my state board of directors. I've tried to get them to be more supportive of it. And they are, on, like I said, on the Federation side of Farm Bureau, but they can't tell the insurance company kind of what to do. Mainly because Obama's looking at all these, you know, these charitable organizations, these farm organizations. They want to do away with them, basically. We were audited this year. So I can't really put pressure on the insurance side to put that language in there to support. But like I say, as long as you're doing all the right things, there's not going to be a problem. We look for a reason to pay those fire department service charges to help prescribe burns. They tell me, you know, turn those in. It won't go against the insured. We pay $500 on those. But it's checks made out to you, the insured. It's up to you to hand that to the fire department, and sometimes it doesn't happen. But we support them, and we haven't had any issues that I know of ever on the prescribed burns. I would tell you to have a good working relationship with your agent. It's a real two-way street. You need to be able to trust him or her. If you can't, find you another one. But probably the two best farm policies I know of, probably the best, is we're strong on that. $1 million with liability with us, about $110 a year. And it's because Oklahoma liability laws support the farmers and the ranchers. You know, in some states it's real expensive. But if they put prescribed burns in there, is what they tell me, the actuaries and statistical analysis guys, the cost would be really high, because it's not really the amount of the claims, it's like to be the claims frequency due to the burning. So they just don't exclude it, but they don't list it. It's just covered under, you know, negligence, you know, if your fire gets out. But I know some of the previous people that have had those standalones, no one would buy them, because you're going to leave this place here and you're going to go sit down with your local AFR agent or your Farm Bureau, and they're going to say, yeah, that fire gets out, we're going to protect you. Now, if you have the first one, they're going to own you, basically. You're not going to be going nowhere else. You can't hardly get insurance once you've had a fire or a theft or liability claim for at least 3 or 5 years, you know. And they won't, I don't know anybody that would call you for one claim, but they can definitely after the third one for sure. And then you have to go into the forced pool. It's called the Marketing Assistance Program. And it's no good. You know, we have to take you back. We have to take so many out of that pool, but the deductible could be $10,000 where you used to have $1,000, or it could be, it's not the best. So, but as long as you do follow the rules to the prescribed burn, and you report and tell everybody what you're doing, including your insurance agent. I always like people to tell me what they're going to be doing, because that way if there's a problem, I'm going to be able to start ahead of time, you know, solving that problem. And but that's, and I'm open for any questions, or if you got anything else.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've got your Golden Advantage policy in and of the state. I don't know how uniform you are across states, and it's a $2 million aggregate deal, and it's really good for us.
Yeah.
But my question is, that covers your liability and damage to others, but can you get a rider to cover your lawyer's costs?
We're going to represent you, and I will tell you, Farm Bureau on the farm side it's called the Federation. It's the same all over the nation, but every state is a separate entity as far as the insurance companies, and they vary state to state because state law varies.
Yeah, sure.
But we're going to provide legal for you, and a real good one. That's why I tell people at least have that $1 million or $2 million, because the more you got, the more we're going to mount a bigger defense. You know, we're going to provide legal for you, and that's why I tell people it's the cheapest prepaid legal you ever bought in your life, and we're going to get the right experts, and we're going to support you, but I've never seen it go to there. I only told everybody yesterday I had a guy, great guy, a few years ago. He plowed, maybe it had a 20-acre spot, plowed real well, burned a brush pile out in the middle of it. No wind. 3 days later, ember goes over there, burns a house, barn, and this lady was one of those people that would sue you for your cow getting on her property kind of deal. So she was loaded for bear and cost us a lot of money, but we didn't cancel that guy. I mean, he was reasonable and diligent in what he was doing and well prepared, but it was really dry, and he should have looked at the forecast probably. But he's still on the books. I don't believe in calling folks. It's just like anybody else. You can tell within 5 minutes if you're dealing with a liar and a thief, just like anybody else can. A lot of people have bad luck. It's like me. That's why I'm wearing this thing. Drove my head at the top of the tractor one too many times. But I encourage everybody to have an umbrella. And an umbrella is just an excess liability above. Say if you had $1 million on your farm and ranch, once that runs out, your excess liability kicks in. And the first $1 million usually about two to $250 a year. It depends on what drives the cost of that up is vehicles, number of vehicles you have, or ATVs. But if you have $5 million worth of assets, you definitely need $5 million worth of liability. That's just, what it's worth. I'm in the business selling insurance, but I'm also have to deal with a deal called E&O if I don't advise you to do that. And people are getting more and more where they will sue you for not selling me more insurance. It's like, I could only push you so far. But we're getting that way in our society. But what state are you in?
Texas.
Texas, yeah. Texas Farm Bureau does a good job.
Yeah.
I'm right on the border.
They're good partners.
And I know the agents across the river, and we work together well. But they're structured different, totally, than we are. Any other questions?
So one thing I didn't get to yesterday during this discussion was, in the states that I've worked in at least, it's important to know what your fire liability laws actually state in the state and what person or entity would be responsible for a fire. So in Missouri and Arkansas, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is who actually lit the fire. So the only way I know for people in my two states to avoid liability altogether is to hire a contractor that has insurance and they light and do the whole thing. And then there's no possible way in those two states that you could be found liable for it. That's the only way I know of, and that might not be the case in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. You're going to have to figure out what that law.
That's pretty much the case
states,
here, but they will sue everyone.
Oh yeah, they'll still try, but.
And that's where that liability comes in. We'll provide the defense. Because I was sued before, it cost me $5,000, and I didn't have a dog in the hunt on any of the deal. So it's not fair, but that's system we have. Anybody can sue you at any time for anything. It's over a bull got in somebody's pasture, but if everybody would burn, we would have cheaper rates, especially up around the metro, and they need to do a better job with their cedars. We got a lot of houses, but when you have big fires, people burn their houses on purpose too, because they got to cover. We probably pay for more houses that way than anything, especially when the economy's down. Economy's down, houses burn. But I've never known really one to burn in 5 counties to prescribe fire. I paid one smoke claim, and it was just a guy that he'd file on everything, Like he had 43 claims in 35 years. I finally had to let him go. But, I'm pretty well 3 strikes you're out with me. It's just so far, they have risk reviews every year, and I have to answer for, say if you had a liability claim, to my underwriters. And if I know, yeah, this man or woman has had, the fire school, he practices all the right practices, he does fire guards, he got out, it happens, it was middle of the night, whatever, then it's no problem. They might come back after the second time and say, well, we won't get rid of them. I'm like, no, let's go to higher deductible. It's kind of a negotiation deal. And higher deductible just saves you more money. But I start out high. I live in a metal house, and I'm really not going to have any claims. And if I do, they're going to be catastrophic, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, I don't know about in Texas, but I'll tell y'all, I was reading over this last night. There's a lot of exclusions for land motorized vehicles, four-wheelers, Rangers, golf carts. There's no coverage there if somebody gets hurt. Unless you're golfing in your golf cart, there's coverage there. We've had more fatalities due to that than anything. Just a FYI, it's kind of one of those, nobody likes to be surprised, and your agent probably told you, but nobody remembers that. And you should, we review every 3 years your policy, and just ask you if you added anything and have any questions or anything else, because it's real fine print and it's real thick, and nobody reads it, and even if they did, it's hard to understand. But you're going to be protected with AFR or Farm Bureau if you do prescribed burns and you have an issue. As the head of underwriting with AFR is one of my best friends. He was an agent from Love County. And, the last one of these I went to, they were saying this person was the only person that had coverage. I told her at the break, that's not necessarily true at all. I really felt like your local farm insurance is better than your standalone. It's just the fact that you can't have multiple liability claims. It's like if you rent a car, you're covered under your car policy, as long as you got comp collision. But you're always better off buying that insurance because it's a broader scope. Buy their policy. You wreck that car, you're in the middle of nowhere, they bring you a new car. You wreck that car and you got your own personal insurance, it's going to cover it. But you're going to have to deal with out-of-state claims. It may take 2 weeks, and they're not going to give you another car probably till you finish that issue. And it's the same way with the liability. You can't ever have enough. If you can afford it, buy the standalone also, and it will be the primary. And then
I don't know how you do it here, but one thing I really like about our situation there is if you've been to the school,
yes,
then you're also covered for 5. You need to go out and help 5 other people, as long as you don't charge for it. As a volunteer, you're covered for 5 burns to go on the land of others and help them.
And
which is a nice feature.
It is, and I talked about that. We had our annual meeting Saturday night, and our state director's Jimmy Kinder, and he's a big farming rancher out by Cookie Town, out west here, another hour or so. And that's what I told him, man. We got exclusions on our policies. I don't know about Texas for horses, because they're so scared about horse liability. Why don't we put it in there where we exclude all the prescribed burning, not just regular negligent, you're burning the trash and burn the pasture off deal. But if you're going to do a prescribed burn, you have to have that certification from Noble or whoever that does it. And he said he'd look into it, but they're pretty they're kind of they don't want anything in writing, and don't want to do anything real specific. It's pretty general. The coverage is there unless it's excluded. But just, like I say, keep your local guy informed. And
One thing I appreciate about that outlook on going to others is that keeps experienced people going to help others and keeping it safe.
Yeah.
And training, that kind of expands your options to make it a safer environment and more people want to get involved.
This is something the Farm Bureau policy, isn't it?
It's that golden, we call it a golden advantage
Yeah.
policy down there.
Yeah, we don't have that, but we need
It's just a right.
to have that. And
It's a
how
right
much
way to
extra does it, how much extra does it cost you?
It's a whopping $10 or $11 or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, earthquake used to be like that, $25, rider on your policy, and then we started having all these earthquakes, and houses falling to the ground and everything else, so we had to start we write it through Argenia, which we have a really good brokerage department now, and talked to our brokerage director, and he, I was trying to get a price to tell y'all for a standalone policy, but, because he mentioned like $250 or something for just a specific burn. He said every situation's different. You know, time you go through the underwriting, it may be $250 and it might be $1,000.
Yeah.
Depends on the size of your operation, you know, a bunch of things, locations. But I'm gonna push forward till I die, because I know how much important it is to. Because that fire, I think it went around over at Lawton, around Fort Sill, where they'd had a prescribed burn. It just went around that from the year before, because the load wasn't there. Just, it's crazy. I mean, my son's on the fire department, I've been on the fire department, and when they roll, they usually call me, and I'm on the tractor with the big offset, you know, plowing. And I found out a tractor would not outrun fire last year. So it's a good thing that y'all are all doing this, though, because more people, because it's grown, hasn't it? A lot.
I don't know, it's
Yeah, you know, it's scary. I mean, it's definitely exciting, you know, but you just have to get past that, and education, communication. You know, I think if more county commissioners would be involved, it would probably be helpful. But it's getting better. I definitely have a good relationship with your state representatives and senators, and, you know, help push this deal wherever you're at. But anything else? You need to do more talking. I'm on drugs. I talk too much.
Questions keep coming.
Anything else? So if I don't have the answers, I can find them and I'll get back with you.
Does smoke, you have Mr. Crockett smoke claim for him?
Had one claim. I blamed it on Noble Foundation, but I don't think it was him. That's what that gripey guy did. He's like, Noble Foundation burned over here, and it just settled in this valley. And I said, I don't think so. But we paid it. You know, we'd smoked up the house, had smoke, but he'd probably been gone the next day. But he was just one of those unhappy people. He woke up unhappy.
Did he have to prove that he had any real damages or not?
Well, it was evident that there was smoke in the house. You know, it was, you could smell it. Supposedly his wife was asthmatic. You know,
Did
we're
he
not
have to
gonna.
prove any real harm?
Well, it's easy to tell there was smoke. You can smell it. I told him I thought it smelled really good, but he didn't think it was. So we paid to have the clothes cleaned, you know, and the vents cleaned, and it wasn't any big deal. You know, we just trying to make him happy, because I don't want any negative tied to controlled burn on who's doing it. You know, we just try to make the neighbors happy. I told him that his house didn't burn. You know, you can't help it when that smoke inversion pushes it down in the valley, and sometimes the wind dies down and you get smoke. So, but I think that's a 1 in 100 deals. I've never had any other trouble. You know, everybody complains about the smoke, but most people realize that it's part of the deal. To make you safer, we need to burn. And You know, it all depends on the agent and the adjuster. I can pretty well, used to could get anything I asked for, you know, within reason, but now we used to have dedicated adjusters for every area, so you'd have a relationship, but they don't want us to have those relationships. So it's a pool. We never know what we're gonna get, but normally I can, you know, because they're human. They could misread the policy. And they're normally try to do the right thing though. That has never been an issue. I've never been ashamed that we didn't take care of something that really needed to be taken care of. There's plenty of people that might not like what we did, but it was what the policy said. And we're gonna make sure they do that.